Okay, so we'll just give a few minutes just to let everybody get settled, and then we'll get going.
I'm not sure you can answer how you are with "it depends." It does feel like there's always actual answer to that question, Fraser. So much as I try and sit on the fence, I'm feeling fine. I've had a very intellectually stimulating afternoon here in the UK. I've been exploring unusual use cases for Tableau on the desktop. I've been using ChatGPT 401 to do some data analysis, and then there was some of the crazy work stuff happening, which was good. So I'm on fire. There you go.
Oh, we caught you at a really good time then.
Yeah.
Very inspirational. Yeah.
It does depend on who is asking. Kirk, you are right. Yeah, that's yeah. But since it was Fraser, who I don't know, I'm going to say, Fraser, I'm feeling great. Kirk, congratulations on being a guest on Tim's massive YouTube channel. Look forward to watching that sometime.
Yes, that's very exciting.
Mm.
Very lengthy, so great conversation. I'm sure I haven't had a chance to watch it either, but does take a big chunk.
Yeah,
as you said, I think
the 2 hour time slot is somewhat daunting.
Yeah, like you said, it's more like a podcast, I guess. But
yeah.
For sure. Okay, so I'm going to get started just with introductions and to the this is being recorded, so if anybody wants to go back and look over later on the presentation. So welcome to everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for making the time to come to our Canada Tug today. Even if you're not from Canada, I mean, this is virtual, so absolutely anybody's welcome. And so we're really happy to see you all here. So we have two very esteemed guests today. Andy Cotgreave is going to present to us on chart choice, and I'm sure a very interesting it depends conversation. And Prag is going to present to us on leveraging Trailhead for Tableau, who's not as familiar to the Tableau crowd, but he's a Salesforce MVP, so a great resource for the Salesforce platform and Trailhead and all the Salesforce systems. Anyway, so without further ado, Andy, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right.
To get going.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to share my video in a minute, but hi everybody. Thank you for being here today for a Tableau user group, and thank you for being Tableau customers and being part of the community. We from everyone at Tableau, we just love the energy of user groups. So it's great to be here. Right, I'm going to share my screen and then ask you all two simple questions. Let's share the screen. So I'll introduce myself in a moment, but first question, a quote quiz. I want you all to type a year to when you think the following quote was written, and if you know who it was written by, type that name too, but I need you to type. So here comes the quote, and the quote was by somebody who was doing a data visualization project, and they were going through the roller coaster of every data visualization project. So the quote starts with, laborious and tedious as the compilation of this work, the data has been. Familiar? So he was struggling to find the data, but a variety of views were continually opening upon me during the execution of the work. So there you go. A quote about the challenge of finding data, but the joy of exploring it. So get your typing fingers out, and who can tell me what year they think that is from? Somebody looking for data and exploring it. So, well, Sarah's in with a name and a place, 1600 Linnaeus. Very good, very good. Anybody else? 1960s, says Fraser. I'm going to wait. 1899 from Val. I'm going to wait for one more. And in fact, I'm going to stop right there. 1787. Holy moly, Marie. You were close. The answer was 1765, 270 years ago. And this was by a guy called Joseph Lee. An amazing man. He discovered oxygen. He named rubbers, as in erasers, rubbers. The word rubber came from him. And he was friend of some of the first American presidents. And he caused loads of riots in the north of England as well because of his religious views. But aside from all of those things, he also did these amazing charts. There was a chart of history and a chart of biography. And basically you had a timeline of 4,000 years of humanity. And then on this one, the expansion and decline of different empires. And he had to compile all the data for all of these things. And even though he was using pen and paper and engraving, the exploration process brought joy to him, and he made one of the most influential visualizations of all time. So 1765, when we build Gantt charts and bar charts, we are standing on the shoulders of these giants. Next question. And Candice, I want you to come off mute because I want an answer to this one. Candice, okay. I'm putting you under big pressure here. What chart would you use to show this data? So I've got sales of, let's say, well, I've got A and B. Let's say it's sales of apples and bananas through the year. What's the right chart for this?
Well, I would use a line chart because it's time-based.
All right, okay. And of course, you know the title of this presentation, right? So the right answer is it depends.
Well, yes.
I know, Candice. I know you know. Right. But I see Desiree says it depends with a giggle. Excellent. We love it. So do keep chatting on chat. I can see with the chat window. So every time you agree, disagree, in fact, more when you disagree with what I'm saying, just drop something in. And if you put questions in the chat window, I'll address those as well. So I'm Andy Cotgreave. Here. If you don't know me, I've been at Tableau for 13 years. It's just crazy. I started using Tableau in 2007. So I've really been at it a long time. And now I do newsletters. I co-host IronViz, Big Book of Dashboards. We've got a new one on the way, and newsletters and video shows as well. This is a picture of me, not a professional headshot, but this is me at the best named village in England. Yeah, that is the village sign that says Great Chart. It's in Kent, in the southeast of England. And who knows, maybe I will retire there when I'm older. But I want to talk about this today. How did I reach the conclusion that the right answer to the question I asked Candice is it depends? Well, a little bit of brief history. I started using Excel. That was my first exploration into data. This was back in about 2005. And I just assumed, well, these people, if they're putting column button in 3D as the big button, that's the right way to visualize data. So I just pressed the button because surely the Excel developers knew what they were doing. Then I discovered a little thing from a place called extremepresentations.com. And if anybody's seen the chart chooser from there, just say yes in the comments. And it was this piece of paper. And at the center of this piece of paper, Desiree's been there, love it. It said, what would you like to show? Zooming out a bit, it's like, oh, you can show different things in a visualization. And then zooming out, it's like you actually then choose the right chart according to what you want to visualize. And this absolutely opened my mind to a whole new world of opportunities. So I think this is genius. Once you get expert, you might actually question some of these choices. But to a new person, this was me thinking, hang on, there's more than just pressing a 3D bar chart button. So back around then, I was a big disciple of Stephen Few's books. So he wrote, Show Me the Numbers, Now You See It. And he was like, this is how you should do data visualization. Data viz should be pure and precise. And I was all for that, right? If it's not optimized for insight, it's a failure. And yet, at the same time, this guy, David McCandless, was selling thousands of books and getting on TED Talks and getting on TV, and was basically a data viz celebrity. If you've got information is beautiful or not, knowledge is beautiful. He was really pioneering these data art displays, and the Stephen Few disciple in me was like, but I can't accurately decode this data. This is garbage. But I had to question, why does he sell more books than Stephen Few? And that was my epiphany. That was my absolutely epiphany. And in 2014, I wrote an article for the Huffington Post. And I was like, what I've realized as I've become expert is the way you can tell a data viz expert from an amateur. And the way you tell it, as I said in this thing, was when they ask you a question about a chart choice, the only wise answer is it depends. Candice, I know you're an expert and I put you on the spot. So I laid a trap for you. I know that would be your answer. And this was all very funny, right? This was a good little meme for Twitter. And loads of people it kind of became what Andy Cotgreave said. Anytime there was somebody's asking about chart types, well, Andy Cotgreave said it depends. Ha ha. But there was dissent amongst the field. Nick Debarat, who wrote Practical Charts and has got a practical dashboarding book coming out next year, he said, well, Andy, it covers all the bases. It's a problem. It's meaningless. We can do better. Ouch. So that was me roasted publicly on Twitter 3 years ago. So we need a better answer, and that is what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes. What does it depend on when you choose a chart? So this is what I've assembling my knowledge. I'm going to cover some of these. Probably we might not do the example. We'll probably run out of time. The first thing, and it's really hard to convey this in depth in a short presentation, is to consider your audience. Every time you are building a visualization, who are the people looking at your work? Are they data literate? Are they going to devote time to looking at it? And how are they going to consume it? In what way are they going to consume it? On a phone, on a big screen, on a piece of paper? Then you've got to think about what is the actual question they are going to answer when they look at your chart. Because that's often not going to be just throw a line chart onto a piece of paper and assume it does it. So as we wrote the big book of dashboards, we realized the goal is for the largest number of people, you've got to provide the greatest degree of understanding so that with the least amount of effort on their behalf to get the insight from the data. I mean, even that's a slightly questionable goal. As I revisit that 5 years later, I'm like, actually, I've got some issues with some of that. But generally, consider your audience all the time. I'm not going to dwell on the requirements there. We've got chapters on that on our new book, but I want to get into what is the right chart. So, how do we choose a chart when we are playing with data in Tableau? Yes, it depends. But in this example, how might I answer this question by actually showing you some charts? Well, I have to ask the questions. It might be just 12 months of data, but do you want to see total sales? Do you want to see cumulative sales? Differences? Which one? Each one will create a different chart. The beauty of what you've got in Tableau is that you can cycle through all of these in about 5 minutes, or probably even 3 or 4 minutes, and then choose the right one for which is articulating the question you're trying to answer. Because even, what does Candice say? She said a line chart, right? But even then, it's like, well, do you do the line chart combining A or B so you can see total sales, or do you do the line chart breaking down A and B? I mean, these are fundamentally important choices that you can't leave to a machine to make for you. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So you've got to think, what is the story I'm trying to tell? And even in there, the story you can tell is you can tell vastly different stories according to the aggregations you choose. So if I want to tell you a story of B being better than A over the year, I could show you average sales, the mean. But if I want to tell the same story with average sales that A did better than B, I could show you the median. Both of these are legitimate aggregations to do with data, but they have different insights in them. And this is your job as a data analyst. You are a curator, a data storyteller, a decision maker on what is being shown. One thing that frustrates me about marketing from vendors like Tableau and Power BI is that they say, well, with our data, you can have a single source of truth. I think that's absolute marketing BS, because we've got a single source of truth, but I'm telling you two different facts, right? So At best, in your organization, you should be striving for a single source of data, but there's no way that will ever be a single source of truth. Don't tell my CMO boss that, because she'll be cross at me, because that goes against what I'm supposed to say. Anyway, another thing, I've alluded to it a little bit. What about machines? Can they not do all this for us now? Ooh, I'll come back to that in a little while. All right, well, what does it depend on? Here we go. This is the meat of this conversation. It depends on something that I've come to call the levers of data visualization. What can you push or pull when you build a chart to sort of go from one? What levers can you push or pull to change the way things change the appearance, the emotional response to a visualization? So I'm going to go through these one by one. L stands for level of detail. When you build a chart, should you show something very granular, or should you show something very sparse? The chart here was published by the Wall Street Journal in about 2017. It went on to win some awards because it was just a really great visualization, and it shows the impact of vaccines across the US over sort of a 50, 60 year or a 40-year time period. Now, in the time it has taken me to explain what the chart, well, I haven't even explained the chart in full. You've already seen the insight in this chart. Basically, your eyes went polio, lots of color, probably means lots of polio, black line, oh, no color, right? The brilliance of this chart is that the main insight, the primary insight that vaccines reduced polio significantly, you consume that in milliseconds. The reason I love this for its granular aspect is that then you might have started going, oh, Delaware. You can start looking in. And if you look at the interactive versions of these, the tooltips really add a lot to it. So here we're seeing something very granular, which gives you a punchy insight immediately, but then offers a huge amount more if you wish to explore it. Now, when this came out on social media, everyone loved it in 2016. Oh my gosh, this is a great chart. Da, 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 da. And eventually somebody said, couldn't it have been a line chart? And so Randy Olson, who's brilliant, he was one of the people who redrew it as a line chart. And his point was, well, you can aggregate this data and show the same insight even faster, right? You can go, polio is going up, and then it fell off a cliff. And it's like, well, that's great, but you lose something when you show the line chart, right? And this is the question we've always got to ask and answer, the tension we're trying to play with. Somebody pointed out recently that the line chart is actually also kind of wacky. If you were a anti-vax conspiracy theorist, the line chart actually suggests that polio incidence started dropping steeply before the vaccine was introduced. Now, as data analysts, we know that's not the case. This is just how we draw line charts, but it's just one of those small little risks. So there you go. L is for level of detail. But this little episode also led me to coin something that I say Cotgreave's law. And this is that the longer an innovative visualization exists, such as this one, the probability that somebody says it should have been a line chart will approach 1. And now you know that law. Next time you see somebody do a funky chart on Reddit, it happens a lot on Reddit, not so much on X these days, but it certainly happens on Reddit. People will go, oh, your chart's great. Oh, it should have been a line chart. It's like, no, it could have been a line chart. Doesn't mean it should have been. All right, E is for emotion. Should your charts be dry, such as this one, or emotional? What we're looking at here is air quality, so the amount of particulates in the atmosphere in a city called Sheffield, which is in the north of England, over a week in November 10 years ago. Those of you that know your English cultural festivals will know the 5th of November is bonfire night, when we celebrate when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the English Parliament, and we celebrate that by blowing up fireworks and setting up bonfires. So what happened here is you've got air quality 4 stages through the day, and then in the evening on the 5th of November, air quality in Sheffield was a disaster, and then it reverted back to normal. So this is a super dry chart, right? If you are an environmental consultant, this is the chart you want. But you could be emotional. Here is the same data encoded as a necklace by, and this is by Miriam Quick and Stephanie Posevich, right? So what you're seeing here is each one of these segments is the same, is one of the bars you saw in the chart, but they are sized and colored and shaped according to the amount of particulates in the air. So you can see bonfire now. Why on earth would you make a wacky, colorful necklace? Well, the necklace was created for a exhibition in the city centre of Sheffield, trying to get people in on their shopping trips on a Saturday between cafe visits. Most of those people don't really engage with bar charts very often, right? But give them something tactile, something they can feel, something physical. It creates a different emotional response to the data. Kirk asks, is it quadruple encoded? It's size, shape, weight, and color. So yes, that is quadruple encoding. Perhaps there's some redundancy, but I think it's excusable for this particular exercise. So emotion, you know, most of your business, most of your day-to-day charts are here. Your IronViz stuff will get more here, but sometimes you might be doing something for the public that might need an emotion. All right, V, that's for vagueness. Do you want to be precise or ambiguous? If you cast your mind back to January 2022, which actually that is quite a while ago now, COVID was looking really bad in January 2022, and the New York Times, well, in the US, predicted cases for the month of January were forecast to rise significantly, and it was going to be it was forecast to be the worst month of the pandemic. Turned out it was further down here, but the predictions were there. So the New York Times ran this story where they did a line for each month to show the cumulative number of cases for each month. And here they're using precise encoding to enable you to see the data. So they're using lines, angles, a bit of uncertainty shading. Most of your charts will be precise. That's the Stephen Few approach, but you could be ambiguous. Here is the same data encoded. In fact, while I describe this, just type in the chat box. What does this look like? What does this remind you of? Is there any visual metaphor you're seeing here? What's going on here is time is going around a spiral. So each of the spokes represents a month. The distance from the center represents the sort of the year. And the thickness of the line, the thickness of the pink band represents the amount of COVID. And the prediction was that January was going to get crazy. French Horn says Kirk. Yes, French Horn. Seashell says Candice. I wonder if there's another. There's a couple more that always pop up. I'll see if they do, and I'll tell you if they're not. Why would the New York Times, who are a very talented data visualization team, create this thing that looks like something spiraling out of control? Some people have said it looks like a tapeworm. The world spiraling down the toilet. Someone said, I quite like the tapeworm. Why did they do this? Well, this is the visual they put on Twitter. And this is the visual you saw if you clicked the link. Sometimes your goal is to capture people's attention, and that is a higher priority than conveying data accurately. That actually can happen quite often, even in a business environment. You probably don't need to do these tapeworm charts, but this is appropriate for Twitter, where it's like, what the hell am I looking at? Click, and then get the actual story. So vagueness plays a really interesting role. You can play around with it different ways. Explore or explain. This one's, this one's relatively quick. You can explain charts. Well, if you think about how your charts get delivered to the end audience, you can either be there to explain the chart, to tell the data story, or you can leave others to explore it. This is a picture of Hans Rosling, who keynoted a Tableau conference 10 years ago. Absolute genius. First, look at the visuals behind him. I mean, optimized to be on a big screen with very little information, because he was there to illustrate and tell the points. Also notice this was one of the best props I have ever seen at any keynote ever. It was just so engaging. It was goofy, but it was funny. It took some balls to turn up with that and do that as a keynote. So genius. You're not always going to be there to explain your data, and that's when we have to build rich interactive dashboards, right? this is a dashboard from the big book of dashboards. It's got 96 pieces of information on it. It's really information dense. It's a great dashboard. But if you did a presentation and stuck that on the screen and said, well, as you can see, this has gone up and that's gone down, no one would have a clue what to look at. So think about, is it for explore or explain, and consider the design as a result. All right, I'm going to go through rapidity in detail, and then we'll do S relatively quickly. This is one I think there are a lot of misconceptions about in that how fast should a chart be perceived. You could design a chart so it takes time to perceive, so it's slow or it's fast. And for my example here, I'm going to go back to my great chart picture and just very quickly ask, does anybody in the audience know what chart is on my t-shirt? If it's a bit small, I think actually if I click it, I'm going to reveal the chart. So while you're trying to do it, that's the chart. It's not very high resolution, but it is a t-shirt version of this. And again, I'm just wondering how many people have not seen this chart before. I'm going to guess Kirk and Candice and Dennis have, but I'm not sure everybody has. If you haven't seen this chart before, I'm going to, hey, Ojo, nice to see you. You've been on all the webinars I've been on the last couple of weeks. For those that haven't seen it before, this was drawn in 1879, and it's by a guy called Charles Minard. And I am running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to go a little faster than I normally would. This shows what happened when Napoleon took an army of 500,000 soldiers from the Russian border and he marched them towards Moscow because he wanted to fight with the Russians in order to get a trade deal. So off he went towards Moscow. The chart thickness represents how many able-bodied soldiers he had as he marched on. You can already see that the number that reached Moscow, about 130,000, is a lot thinner than this. The Russians were basically scorching the earth, so starving the army and the population in order to decimate Napoleon. Brutal but effective military tactic. They then evacuated Moscow, so there was nobody to fight. Napoleon had to retreat, so now we've changed the color. And as you can see, the line's getting very, very thin. These vertical bars refer to the temperature, which is shown here at the bottom. And now we're in the depths of the Russian winter. It's brutally cold, and there's massive tragedies. Half the remaining soldiers perished trying to cross the Bretsnia River. They'd already burnt all their boats and wood. And Napoleon limped back to the start with about 10,000 soldiers left. So this is an incredible chart. Edward Tufte said it was the best chart ever. I think that's very arguable, but it shows a really rich story with color, angle, annotations, slopes, a little bit of mapping as well. It's an amazing masterpiece, but it takes me 2 minutes to explain it. And a map indeed, says Candice. But it's taken me a couple of minutes to explain it. So come with me on an imaginary journey. Here is Field Marshal Mikhail Kutuzov, who I'm sure you all know was the leader of the army in 1812 when Napoleon went on his march. And imagine he's having a chat with Alexander, the Emperor of Russia. And Alexander gets in touch on his old Android phone. Yeah, go with me. And Alexander says, hey, you smashed Napoleon. Great job. Scorched earth was a cool tactic. Mikhail's happy. Should we have some vodka later? Glad you're happy, boss. And he goes, but can you do a PowerPoint presentation for the team before we go out? Thumbs up, calendar, happy face. Now, we've all been in this situation because he's like, yeah, how long will I have in the meeting? And then Alexander drops the bombshell. 2 minutes. It's a busy agenda. And you can guarantee that there'll all be blowhards in that agenda. So that 2 minutes will be shrunk to 30 seconds, right? We've been there. So what would Mikhail do? Imagine he had this chart in 1812. Imagine his strategists and commanders had drawn this map. Well, sometimes it's tempting to pour a lot of time into a beautiful piece of work and think, I've got to present this. But it takes 2 minutes to tell the story. So we could have done this instead. Hi, everybody. It's 1812. Really good success. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but in the outcome, we killed or captured 98% of Napoleon's soldiers. If you want more details, please come and get them at the Kremlin later. Thank you very much. Let's go have some vodkas. Now, I realize the world's a bit crazy these days, so I don't mean to make light of loss in military campaigns, loss of life in military campaigns, but this is a great example. We sometimes think all charts should be understandable in an instant, but they don't all have to be. This is a masterpiece if you take the time to understand it, and there is space for that. Kirk's all in for the stack bubbles, for the stack, bubble charts. They're not as bad as we say, but use them carefully. Finally, S is for sneakiness. You can be honest or dishonest in your charts, but everyone on this call, I'm sure, would be honest all the time. You can accidentally be dishonest. That's something to be wary of. Here's my favorite one from the last couple of years. This is from the ex-Tory government from February last year. And the Treasury was very keen to say, look how much inflation is reducing. Isn't the government amazing? And it looks like, when you look at the bars, inflation has gone down. Wow, looks like inflation's dropped about 25%. Some of you are probably one step ahead of me because you'll notice I have hidden the labels on the bars. If you look closely, they started the bars at 8%. So this is not 0. What should the bar have looked like? Oh, yeah, right. So there's that. The bar should, if you actually extend the chart down to 0, this is what the bar chart should have looked like. So you go, how much has inflation really reduced? You know what? That little yellow bar is a far smaller proportion than that yellow bar, right? So you can be dishonest. This chart actually got a letter. We have in the UK an Office for Statistical Regulation. And Ed wrote to the Treasury people saying, you are idiots and deliberately deceiving the public. Don't do this again. And you see this a lot. Now, this was deliberate deception. You can accidentally do these things. So when you're thinking about your charts, don't fall into the trap you may have done. So there you go. That's your levers. Are there any more? Are there other levers you think you can push and pull? Put them in chat. We can talk about them in Q&A. But there are 6 of the things that I think are really important to think about as we're building any chart. I'm going to quickly talk about AI, and then I'll wrap up. I've done this example for a while, and until ChatGPT came around, I could say, well, of course AI can't do this. Then ChatGPT did go up, and it was all right. ChatGPT 4 and 3 were hopeless. Custom GPTs, I uploaded the script to this talk, loads of my book, and loads of stuff. If I upload Andy Cotgreave's knowledge, will it know what the right chart for this data is? And when you ask it, and then it creates crappy charts. It made up data, right? This was about 8 months ago. It just made up data, and that's not optimized for PowerPoint. More recently, ChatGPT have updated their charting model, so now they look attractive and curvy. But this is a trap because this looks great. Sales of products, it's great. But a few minutes later, I was like, but that doesn't look like the actual data. And it took me 10 minutes to work out that what ChatGPT had done was sort the months out alphabetically. So April was before August, before December. How many of you would look at a chart like this on the left and go, well, hey, AI is amazing, only to send this to your boss and he makes a decision or she makes a decision which is based on fake data? So the challenge with AI is it can do a lot for us, but I don't trust any of it. So when I get AI to do something, I have to then do it myself just to validate it. So I don't think we're there yet. We are on a path, perhaps. I've been doing some amazing stuff with 401, but we'll see. Our jobs are secure, Fraser, I think. Right, well, I'm going to get to the summary because I want to get to some Q&A. So we're not going to do an example. In fact, I'm just going to jump to the summary. let me just jump to the summary. Yeah, let me just jump to the summary. Right. We've looked at considering the audience, chart choice, and levers. We've talked about AI briefly. Oh, and that's not the right end slide. That's the end. Oh, hang on. Oh, there you go. There's the end slide I wanted to get to. That's a lightning fast summary of what I think it depends on when you are trying to build a chart. Think about the levers you can push and pull either way. Anytime you build a visualization, how are you pushing those to optimize so the audience can get the best insight out of them? So there you go. That here endeth the sort of formal bit. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really, as Candice says, I'm really keen to hear if there's any questions. Just type them in, and I guess we've got a few minutes to answer some questions. Thank you, Adrian, for the kind words.
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody else has some charts that they would like to put in the chat or in the Q&A, we could have a peek at them, or if they have any comments on charts they've seen that do a good or bad job.
I like Ojo's plugging the Einstein Copilot, and then Kirk's like, Einstein Copilot? That name is so September. Yes. For those who are keeping up with Tableau.
September, yes.
We released Einstein Copilot for Tableau in about June, and then we renamed it in 2 weeks ago at Dreamforce. Welcome to the world of Salesforce.
Yeah. And of note too, while that slide's up as well, if you like this conversation too, there's plenty more of this at Chart Chat every month.
Yeah,
this is what Chart Chat's kind of like.
we were on the most recent Chart Chat, Candice, when we were talking about population pyramids and text-only dashboards. I
wasn't able to make that one, unfortunately. I tried to make most of them.
It was combative. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'd love so just for context for people who haven't attended before, basically Andy and Jeff Schaefer and Amanda get on, and they all take a topic and they do their own interpretation of the data. Oh, and Steve Wexler. Yes, Thank you. Sorry. Of course, Steve organizes it and has it on his website. So that's where you go to register. Yeah. They do their own interpretation, and they kind of hash out just kind of this style of what do you think of this chart? Well, I took that and I improved it and I thought of it this way. And they kind of go back and forth. And sometimes they have special guests too, right? Like you had didn't you have the Financial Times guy on one time, or?
Yeah, we've had people from Financial Times. Next month we've got Georgia Lupi. I thought I had a slide with Georgia on it, but clearly I must have deleted it. Yeah, so next month it's Georgia Lupi. And then in November we're doing the top 10 charts ever seen on TV. So data viz in TV shows. Yeah, that's the Christmas one.
Oh, very nice.
It's a lot of fun. So join us there. You can subscribe to my newsletter and get details as well.
Oh, yes, awesome. Yeah.
Jessica, if you go to Chart Chat on YouTube and then click the live button instead of the videos button, you will find them. It's a little quirk of YouTube that it doesn't put live streams in the video page. So good luck. You can find them on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, and I think Steve Wexler has a sign up on his page.
Yeah.
If you Google Steve Wexler.
Yeah.
You just get a calendar invite that way, I think.
Yeah. Indeed.
A notification. And if you subscribe to your newsletter, it's probably in there as well, right?
It is. Yeah. I always share the links.
Yeah, so I get that reminder.
All right.
Yeah.
No more questions.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you have a few minutes to hang around, Andy, if there's any questions or.
Yeah, I'm going to stick around to the end.
Okay.
So yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, they can type it in the chat. Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to present my screen for just a quick sec, which is a little bit messy, but because I'm not that great with this new Bevy platform. So Andy, I was supposed to introduce you, but of course, Andy, in the Tableau community doesn't really need a big introduction, but anyways, I did have a slide to introduce you, Andy, sorry.
That's fine.
I made you introduce yourself.
Fine, no problem.
So our next speaker is Prag, and Prag is a little not quite as familiar to the Tableau community as Andy is, so not quite as famous, but he is famous in his own community, which is the Salesforce community. And he has his own consulting company, Skilled Cohort. He's been an MVP 7 times, 4 times, 4 times, Craig?
Yeah.
Yes, 4 times. Yes, and a Dreamforce speaker multiple times. Obviously, he's well known in the Salesforce community. So, without further ado, we'll hand it over to you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for excuse me. Oh my god. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, this is such a great presentation, Andy. You set the bar pretty high, and now the pressure is on me. I don't know how many people are gonna like walk away after I start presenting, but overall, this is the first time me attending one of these sessions, and it is fantastic. I'll definitely try to come to learn more about Tableau. I'm still at the early stage, trying to understand the difference between Tableau versus Tableau CRM versus Einstein Analytics. Like that's the kind of stage I am at, but I'm here to help you guys to understand in terms of how Salesforce is helping almost everyone within the Salesforce ecosystem to understand, and also like what kind of documents and resources that you can rely on, and that's going to be the primary focus for me for today. Okay, without any further ado, and again, this is the first time I'm using Baby, even though I'm running the community group for a while. Let me see whether I'm doing it correctly by sharing my screen. Chrome tab. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
We can see your screen. Perfect.
Oh, excellent, fantastic. Okay. As a disclaimer, you're going to look a lot of things that looks like Salesforce content and also like Salesforce slides, but this is like completely put by myself. So I have access to a lot of these stuffy animal pictures. So I kind of like try to put a lot together. So this is definitely not something that Salesforce gave me. So if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, like please let me know, and I'm happy to address those. Of course, can I just give a quick introduction about myself? That was fantastic. I do not have anything much to add to it. The only part that I would like to add is I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for close to 15 years. When I started within the Salesforce ecosystem, it wasn't like anywhere closer to this. It's probably like 1,000 clients who started using Salesforce, and it was only one product. Technically, they call it a core product. It's like half-baked Sales Cloud and half-baked Service Cloud, and that's pretty much it. And I couldn't believe how fast and how bigger Salesforce has been evolved in the last many years. To add to my profile, I'm based out of Halifax, best place in the world, like Candace. So, and I run my own consulting firm, primarily focused on revenue operations, help scale revenue cycle at high-tech companies. Also focused on security. Like data compliance is one of the biggest pain for anyone to go through. So we kind of specialize in it. And of course, Salesforce has so many suite of products, but we try to stick within the Salesforce core platforms, which is Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, everything which is kind of like part of the Salesforce ecosystem. And what we're going to learn today is what are all the different ways that you guys can learn Tableau based on my understanding with the power of Trailhead. Trailhead is a platform that was introduced, I think, in 2014, and that was because the resources from the Salesforce side has been always been hanging around at different places, because the development team have their own suite of resources. The administrative team at the Salesforce side have their own suite of resources. Then also community members like us, we try to generate a lot of content for people to consume and also like learn much faster. So it was kind of like disorganized around the globe, and I think Salesforce looked into it and tries to address that problem, because as probably most of you folks know, Salesforce do 3 major releases, and most of the time they try to introduce new features, but at the same time they upgrade their APIs, they decommission some of those features, so there wasn't a single source of truth to go through all of those changes that's happening much faster. So they come up with this Trailhead idea, and it was like very interesting. At the early stage it was in a beta state, but they quickly scaled much faster, and almost everybody in the Salesforce ecosystem will have an account on Trailhead. And again, if you don't have one, don't worry, I have a resource slide at the end that could help you to set up your own account. But what it does is it's more of a playful way of learning. You're able to be motivated in terms of collecting badges, in terms of collecting the status, and Ranger is one of the first status, and that's why I kind of try to put a t-shirt which says Ranger. But overall, there's like a lot of motivation around why you have to learn within the Salesforce ecosystem through Trailhead. To start with, it's completely free. The entire online learning platform is completely free. They also announced a mobile version of Trailhead called Trailhead Go in the last few years, so that people who are commuting more than an hour or so using public transport could able to take advantage of this application to learn a lot of things. But there's a certain limitation on what modules / projects that you can do it on Trailhead Go, and I will explain you what is a module versus project versus trials. But there's always a limitation on that. But if you have like an hour of time, or if you are watching a hockey game, and again, sounds more like a Canadian, you can actually like fire up your laptop and try to do something, because you don't need to have tunnel focus if you're trying to take some quest, try to learn something while you're also watching the game. So Trailhead kinds of helps you enhance your learning curvature in a much more faster way than any other learning resources that you can find on the internet. The other biggest benefit that you can get by learning any concepts through Trailhead is it always comes with a real world scenario and use cases. Of course, there will be a company name with a few personas that will be explaining, hey, this is the problem, this is the potential solution. What do you think? Here are the quizzes, like how you will encounter these problems and what would be your answers. And also, Trailhead provides you a different way of learning, which is hands-on. And knowing Kirk and Candice, like, yes, of course, you have to get your hands dirty so you could able to go try to understand. And I'm super excited to see the changes that Trailhead brought for Tableau community, because it wasn't always out of Trailhead for the last few years. And starting this year, you could able to start learning certain features about the Tableau within Trailhead. So where you have content on the left side and you have an interactive screen on the right side. So it's quite interesting. So that's where the hands-on project comes into picture. Then, what are all certain advantages of going through Trailhead learning process, which is like it's self-paced learning? Like, you define your own goals. And I've seen so many people, and I've seen so many movement that says like 100 days of Trailhead, which means like you spend an hour a day to gain 1 or 2 badges, so that like you do it for 100 days so that you can gain 100 badges with certain amount of points, so you'll become a ranger. So there's like a lot of things like that going around on social media. So if you search for like 100 days, you'll definitely get one of those under the Trailhead badges. So long story short, you could able to set your own self-paced learning within Trailhead. Then the second point, which is like trials and modules. So let's say if you are someone who need a prescriptive way of learning, then trials and trial mixes are a fantastic way to set yourself up for success. And the reason they help you to define it is, let's say you have a goal of acquiring and Salesforce admin certification. I'm just picking Salesforce as an example, but you can pick something around like Tableau, you can pick something around Einstein Analytics. So if you set that as a goal, then you can able to identify what are all the resources that you have to put together that's defined in that certification curriculum as a trial mix. The difference between trials and trial mixes, or trials are provided by Salesforce, assuming that these are all the fundamental learnings that you need to have to acquire the certificate. But trial mixes are something that you can put together, and you can able to identify some of the specific informations that's available within Trailhead, or even to an external resources that you can plug it into trial mixes. And the bigger benefit is you can also make it as public, so that you can share it with your friends, colleagues, or your study buddies, so that like you both are kind of traveling in the same content path. So that's around like trials and modules. Is badges and points, as I say, like that's mostly the motivation factor, and it's more like gamified. When it comes to badges, like you have to finish certain chapters within that entire badge to gain that badge. And points are like a little bit tricky. There's like two kinds of points you can get. One is like quiz based points, and the other one is hands-on based points. So hands-on based points, until you reach what the system is expecting you to finish on the platform, you won't be awarded the points. But the quiz based points is like very tricky. So if you answer incorrectly for the first, you break into half. So let's say if you can answer everything at the first go, you'll probably award 100 points. But if you don't, then it will break into 50. And if you still fail to answer the second time, like whatever times you take to answer correctly, then it's going to be awarded as 25 points. And the reason the points are kind of very interesting, and it's kind of gamified as part of your acquisition, is because based on the points plus badges is how you get ranking. So ranger is one of the highest rank that everybody wants to reach, and then there's like 2 times ranger, 3 times ranger, 4 times ranger, and then like all times ranger. So that's kind of a status quo for anybody who's in the Salesforce ecosystem. And you could able to showcase that on your Trailhead account, which I will talk about that later as part of the reference links. Then, as I mentioned about certification preparation and career orientation, I have a separate slide to talk about. But what it fundamentally tells you is, if you go to Google and search for resources that you need to review to get prepared for your certification preparation or like career orientation, then you're going to get a lot of references, and it includes both Salesforce built content. It also includes about non-Salesforce content. And the biggest benefit of going through Salesforce content is, as I said, Salesforce have probably like thousands of employees behind the scene to update all this information on the Trailhead. So we have been always told by Salesforce to recommend the Salesforce content so that people who are preparing for the certification won't get disappointed by going through that content. Quickly jump on to the learning cycle, because yes, we talked about a lot of things, but how we can do that learning cycle. We'll start from like the journey should start from like what path that do you want to choose. And when it comes to like different content type, it starts from like modules, where you have to complete all those units that I talked about. Then the second one is like hands-on challenges. That's where the projects comes into picture. So it comes with an use case scenario, and you could be able to do hands-on around those projects. And the third one is trial, of course, all the connected modules that I was talking about, that's mandatory for you to finish as part of you reaching the goal. And once you do any one of these, you'll obviously earn badges with points, and then the system could able to track your entire progress. And then obviously you could able to level up your rank. Then you continue with this. So it's more often rinse and repeat, and you will never get disappointed in terms of like how updated you are with the content that Trailhead is providing. The point to be noted, there's like certain badges. Those are like time-based badges, and one of the craziest interesting badge that they release is around this Halloween period. So if you get a badge, then automatically you will have an added badge that's going to be like very specific to Halloween. It's like very interesting, and people would love to collect those badges because you can get it only like specific time of the year, and it looks very pretty on your profile. So it's kind of like very interesting the way how people get super excited about getting those badges. And when it comes to like career oriented and certification preparation, there's like 2 different ways you can do it. Number one is the free version, which is what we are talking about, is more about like Trailhead. We can able to go through trial mixes, you can go through modules, you can able to go through projects, and that's on your self-learning path. You could able to learn everything on your own when you are like disciplined, and when you know like what kind of goal you want to achieve, and the amount of hours that they suggested for you to invest on. Let's say you are one of the folks who doesn't have enough time and probably doesn't have self-motivation, sit and do like hundreds of hours of Trailhead and try to track all this content. Then there is a second way that you can do, which is like instructor-led training. And again, these are the trainings provided by Salesforce, by by hiring either the internal Salesforce employees to deliver this content, or probably external instructors who again has to go through a certain level of certification to be called as a certified instructor. And that would be like an intensive course of content that's going to help you to get certified. When I was looking into some of those options, they also added Tableau as part of this instructor-led training. So let's say if you're working at an organization and if you see that there is a certain level of learning that you cannot be able to get as part of your work, then you could able to convince them saying like, hey, I would like to take this training. It's going to be like 3 days in the month of November, between 7th and 11th. And we wanted to take it, and it's going to cost us like $2,500 US. It's going to be like online, so we don't have to like travel to acquire this knowledge. So that's the kind of intensive learning opportunity that you have as part of this paid learning path. And Salesforce called it as Trailhead Academy. And again, there's a different set of resources that you will receive. There's a different set of trainings and environment that you gain access to. And the people that you meet during those trainings are going to be an accelerator for you to achieve your goal in a much faster way. But that's going to be more focused on the certification preparation. Okay. And quickly connecting on this particular piece, which is what my favorite thing around Salesforce ecosystem, which is like you can able to connect, collaborate, and grow together. So within the Salesforce side, on the right hand side, we call it as groups, and there will be like dedicated groups. So let's say I have some problem with Service Cloud, and I'm trying to enable computer telephonic interface, and if I wanted to implement it and I have some problems integrating that with Amazon Voice, I don't know what to do because I do not have enough expertise within the team. And how I can achieve it is by, okay, this is the problem I'm facing, and I'm going to host my question here. And there will be at least like 20 different answers we'll get for that question within an hour or so. And that's how integrated the community is. They always try to help each other. And again, you will be like ranked based on the points that you receive, based on the selection you are getting as a best answer. So there's like again gamification around how it will be motivating you. I was with Candice the other day trying to understand, does it exist for Tableau? And yes, it does exist for Tableau, and they have their own landing page. So people on the call, if you are new to Tableau and if you're interested to answer some of the questions or some of the challenges that you are not facing at work, but you wanted to be part of those challenges and you want to give it a try, I would highly suggest you to go there and create an account and probably try to answer some of those questions. We try to look, is there any Tableau groups within the Trailhead groups, which unfortunately they don't have. But if you're coming from Einstein Analytics background / Wave Analytics, again, like that's the word like very few folks in the ecosystem know, because that's how it's been originally announced. So overall, you can able to go there and could able to create some groups around there and probably start having interactions over there. I think this is going to be the last slide from my end. This have all the references to how you can create or sign up for an Trailhead, and how you can access all the Trailhead Academy courses and try to understand, okay, these are all the things that I would like to learn, like what kind of learning that I have. That could be done there. And when it comes to Trailhead modules, obviously there's like so much, but this is the one which is like highly recommended to go through some of the hands-on challenges. The bigger benefit of signing up on Trailhead account is like if you have Tableau account, I'm pretty sure you have a developer account or a free account, you can use it to log in so that all your history will be like connected to one account. And even in future, if you're going to create multiple accounts, you can able to connect it back. So overall, it's a well integrated system for you to have self-learning. So yeah, like that's pretty much it I have from the Trailhead lens. But I'm happy to answer a lot of things around here.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can post them in the chat. So like Prag showed, the Tableau forum is currently separate, and Adrian's on the call as well. Like he would be a bit of a forum expert, because I think, Adrian, you're still active in the forum, eh? I can turn your mic on if you want. Yes, he's correct. Okay, I turned your mic on if you want to talk. Yeah, so Adrian's really active in that forum. So if anybody has any questions on Tableau forum or how to get answers from that, like certainly this is getting a lot. Trailhead's getting a lot more Tableau focused, which is what I thought we have Prag come and speak to us, and so we can kind of get used to the whole. Oh, it's not connecting. I think you're on. Oh, it's not connecting. Oh, yeah, you're not. Anyways, on your side, okay. So I think Salesforce is like getting a lot more Tableau stuff up on Trailhead. So like in future, we may have more of a connected experience, as Prag describes, would be awesome. I think it's helpful to have it all in one place. And yes, like I think just to address what you were saying, Prag, about Tableau public. So that would be what like a Salesforce org is to us. That's a little bit easier than the Salesforce getting a Salesforce org, a demo org, but yes, you could go set up a Tableau public account, and the Tableau public account is how you do your hands-on exercises on Trailhead. And it's pretty it's kind of a new process, and it's very well integrated, so it's easy to use. So like encourage you guys to check that out. So Adrian says, what would Prag recommend to Tableau folks to learn, and what certifications would suit for the future? Did you want to comment on that, Prag, or what if you were, so maybe it's maybe a couple of different contexts on that one. Like, so if you were a non-Salesforce person, like what certification would you start with in the Salesforce ecosystem, I guess?
Yeah, no, 100%. First of all, great question, and it's definitely the direction I think Salesforce wants to take everyone. Because I saw a demo where Tableau is going to be part of the Salesforce user interface. So the way I would suggest to start looking into like associate level certification, because it's a easy go certification. So if you find an Salesforce associate certification, that would give you a basic understanding of, okay, this is what Salesforce is, and this is how I could able to interact with the Salesforce ecosystem from an user interface standpoint. That's going to be a good starting point. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, then I would suggest admin level certification, and that's pretty much it. You don't need to go much more deeper on the platform developer side or platform app builder side or anything focused on like sales service. So this is going to be definitely helpful for you to have a foundational understanding of the platform.
Oh, thank you.
And
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Adrian, meet Prag. Prag, meet Adrian.
Oh, I know him. And for sure he knows me as well. We've been in a few meetings together. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions on Tableau forum as well, Adrian can respond.
Oh, yeah.
And I did have another. Oh, yeah, and I also had another comment that the AI associate exams are, I think, free until December 31st, right? The certifications. Yeah.
Yes. So the AI associate exam is free. Salesforce is motivating everybody to take that exam to have a better understanding about what Salesforce is trying to communicate from an AI standpoint. I don't know how many of you could able to come to Dreamforce or watch the Dreamforce keynote on Salesforce Plus, but I was there, and it's just like AI buzz everywhere, and it's more focused on agent force. So that's going to be pretend like the new era of Salesforce, the way it's been clearly indicated. So yes, you're going to probably hear a lot about AI solutions that Salesforce is providing. That's going to probably talk about all the suite of products that they have right now. Because I do know like they have a Slack booth. They are promoting a lot around Slack from an AI lens because it has a lot of unstructured data. They're definitely talking more about connecting data from external systems, and Data Cloud is one of outcome in whatever you want to do from an AI world. Data cloud should be at the foundation level. And I already started noticing a lot of folks who are not just primarily focused on Salesforce platform, or also focused on taking data cloud. It's a good example. Candice, congratulations on taking the data cloud. But yes, like a lot of folks who have that data background is more motivated on taking data cloud certification. And data cloud might sound like a new thing, but it's been around for a while. They used to be called a CDP, centralized data platform, but they just like rebranded to data cloud. So to answer your question one more time, Adrian, I think data cloud might also be an advantage for people who belongs to ecosystem.
Oh yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's a good one. It is on the Salesforce Salesforce ecosystem, so it's very Salesforce with like the tabs and a lot of the like terminology like the objects and things like that. So it does help to have, and Fraser as well in our community is also a Canadian Tableau ambassador. Just took a Salesforce admin certification, right, Fraser? And
Nice.
so yes, good job. Yeah, awesome. So there's a couple of us around who have sort of started to spread our wings in the Salesforce platform. So certainly lots of resources in the community great experience. Awesome. Great to hear. Congratulations, Fraser. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, like just my comments on this. It's more like, like people used to kind of think of from the perspective of like the future, So I mean, like if we would like to learn something, So I mean, like because in most of the cases, people are kind of good professionals, especially about Tableau, but also we need to kind of keep our kind of hands on the future, So what else we should learn, what we should look for, and especially like Salesforce is the mother company, so we kind of need to think about the future. So yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going
but
to
just a
really
second
integrate
question,
it.
just simple
Yeah.
question. I mean, about the Salesforce.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of like Salesforce opportunities on the market or something? I mean, like what's going on with the market of Salesforce jobs? I'm just kind of keeping looking at LinkedIn and still like.
Yeah. So it was down a bit, but it's actually coming up because Salesforce definitely did a good job mid this year, making people to understand the importance of data cloud, and they kind of tapped around some of the specific use cases that they didn't think about when they tried to advertise the product. So a lot of companies are trying to implement data cloud, and for
Nice.
data cloud you need to have an administration or someone who is very strong on the Salesforce side. So companies who used to run, and this is just in the last 2 years, where companies decide to cut down all the external resources and try to run systems based on internal resources, they do not have enough expertise to accommodate a data cloud project. So it's not just the data cloud expert who is like coming from outside to implement, but it's also opening up some space for external experts on the Salesforce ecosystem to come along with data cloud experts to have a better implementation. Because data cloud, and Candice may able to talk more about that, as a product is much more powerful if it's been configured properly. If you do any mistakes, then you have to kind of get rid of everything and restart from scratch, which is causing a lot of trouble. So based on some prospect that I've been dealing with, so what we are proposing, like any kind of data cloud implementation should be like two separate parts. One is just the design one, then the second one is going to be the implementation. So yeah, it's going to be the things are definitely changing in a much beneficial way for workforce because of all the changes that Salesforce is bringing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like as the job market is dictating where people should go and what kind of certifications to attend and check, But
Yeah.
Thanks that.
Yeah, and just a quick comment on the data cloud aspect. Like, there's certainly like a lot of the data cloud stuff that's done on the it's done on the Salesforce platform with a Salesforce like ecosystem, but there is like kind of a pre-step kind of strategy conversation that you really have to have in like planning out the implementation, that I think like a lot of people in the Tableau community could really leverage their data knowledge, and that, so it's a good spot like to kind of get ourselves introduced into that ecosystem, because it's like you really have to understand the data that's going in, because it only goes in once. Like you got to get, like Prag says, is that you got to get that first step done right, and it has to be planned. And then once you're in, like once you have it in, then you can kind of play around with it and stuff. Although it's a consumption model, so I mean it does cost everything, all that costs. But like the whole planning of the use case to get it in is like a data conversation, which the Tableau people are more familiar with. It does give us a spot to kind of get into the Salesforce ecosystem, I think. Just an opinion, but yeah, it's a comfortable starting spot for us, I think. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, so any other questions? Nope, good. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you to Prag. And I think Andy's had to go, but of course, because it's a different time of day there for him. But thank you everybody for coming. And there will be a recording, so if anybody wants to go through what Prag said again or what Andy said again, please check out the recording. You know, Prag had some resources up there too as well for you, so you guys can leverage those. Yeah, awesome. Thanks everybody.
Thank you everyone. Have a nice day.